Welcome to the Shakaama Live Show with your host, Shakaama. Winter's, winter's coming. So, I want to talk about human resources, HR. And I want to talk about men versus women in a workplace, right? So, they fired Screen Junkies off of his own show. I believe he was the actual founder of the YouTube channel. So the allegation, first of all, let's go over this again, once again. Variety magazine, Hollywood magazine, writes the story as two different women going onto Twitter and making a Twitter testimony. Twitter testimony. Since when did Twitter become the government? That's ridiculous. And so, according to these magazines, online magazines, they're not journalists. They're online magazines that are anyway. Let's not call out people for not being actual journalists, not being respected journalists, being nothing more than celebrity gossip magazines. The way they put it, and I read a couple of them, the women made Twitter testimonies, and based off of those Twitter testimonies, they fired the Screen Junkie guy. Okay. Right. We're all on the same page? You all are understanding where I'm coming from? Now, HR fired him. Okay. Now let's take a look at HR. This is how you do research, by the way. Now let's take a look at HR. Oh, they said he did this, that, and the other. They will not tolerate it, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to make a couple of statements, and I know that a couple of people who are actual HR professionals, I want you to agree with me and back me up on this. Since I have a company and I wanted to hire people, one of the things I looked at into was having an employee environment, because humans are humans. Humans have to have some sort of structure when it comes to a professional environment, such as a job. Although looking around, this isn't very professional. Now, one of the things that the instruction said was, if you don't have one, make an HR manual. Even if you don't have an HR department, make an HR manual, human resource manual. This is how we're going to conduct ourselves. Why? Because you can have an environment in the workplace that is so lax that you make certain jokes normally, and people literally come to work and let their hair down at work, which they can't do at home. They're married, they're married, they have children, they can't certain things around their wife. But it's a group full of guys, right? And they have certain jokes that they just freely say, right? I'm not saying the Screen Junkie was an instance of this, but on the one hand, one of my points is that it might very well be. They said, for instance, you make adult jokes. You finally hire a woman, and the woman may or may not join in on the jokes. The problem comes in when you hire the woman that does not join in on the jokes, right? Because then, by law, she can then take everybody to court, and the law is going to back her up, right? So they say make them before you have even if you don't have an HR department, make an HR manual, and everybody has to sign off on it and agree to it. This is within your manual, and you have to, although there's no women in the office, you have to agree with it and adhere to it, although there's no women in the office, right? Because there could potentially be, maybe there's a client sitting in the lobby, and although you don't take clients, maybe it's somebody, anybody in a profession, anybody can sue you, right? So they said literally it only really gets to be gnarly when you don't have the HR manual and you have a bunch of guys sitting around cracking off-color or adult jokes, right? Even if it's, you know, you hire your first black guy or you hire your first Native American guy, whatever, right? Have the manual, then everybody signs off on it and it says, okay, here's how we're gonna act. Here's what I think happened. They didn't have an HR manual. They didn't have, and they had an activity of this is how we could conduct ourselves. We are going to Are you all hearing? Darn ghost. I'm joking, but I'm not even joking. It's been going on all night. There's nobody. I walked around the whole house. I looked at the dog. I didn't bring the dog in, but I looked at the dog to make sure the dog wasn't barking at anything. Dog wasn't barking. It's all inside the house. Anyway, but nobody wanted to upvote my thumbs up my Las Vegas. Are y'all hearing that? I hear a siren in the distance, but okay. So they had an HR department, but I believe it was the custom of the particular office that they told off-color jokes and they said off-color things to each other, right? You can say off-color things to each other and not know that the person that you're saying this stuff to is in fact on the down low, or what is that what they call it? In the closet. Down low is a black thing, right? I know, everybody steals from black people, so if I say that, you're going to be like, no, I've heard plenty of white people say that. It's a black thing. It's white people stealing it doesn't make it not a black thing. So you could potentially have a powder keg sitting in your office and you just don't know it. So make sure that you have the HR manual. This is what I think happened, and I think the accusers took it too far. I think maybe the accusers knew that it was a joke and there was no intention behind it, because a lot of the law is about intent. Did you intend to run him over? Okay, when you backed up and went again and backed up and went again and backed up, you can't say that you didn't intend. Right? The actions show intent, but most of the law is based on intent. Did you intend for this person to be harmed? There's a lot of that. Negligence is not intent. Negligence is you did something that if you were a reasonable person, you wouldn't have done it, but somebody ended up being harmed just by you not being a reasonable person. Okay, which brings me back to the HR being to blame for this. I believe in this instance, HR just brought down the hammer, and HR is unreasonable in this situation. Because then I went and researched and said, has this been going on? Is this something, has anybody else come forward? 2 people making Twitter testimonies, which is not a thing. I'm sorry to say, Screen Junkies, Twitter testimony is not a thing. Hollywood Magazine, Variety Magazine, Twitter testimony is not a thing. Stop it. You are now getting into my venue of the tabletop game, Shadowrun, where the corporations are now running the authority. It's ridiculous, Twitter testimony. Please stop, nip that in the bud absolutely right now. That is not a thing. And you HR who are firing people who founded the very company that you work for, making Twitter testimony a thing, that's crazy. I'm deadly serious. That's crazy. That is borderline insanity. I don't want to live in a society where somebody says something, types something without any sort of cross-examination, without actually coming to the police. It's, well, women are intimidated. Yes, you need to be intimidated. You need to have somebody say, did this really happen? Show me some evidence. Intimidation does not excuse testimony. Are you responsibly saying something about someone that you have proof, that you have evidence? Twitter testimony is not admissible in court. Sorry to tell you. Well, she made a Twitter testimony. You fired somebody over that? You stopped somebody working who actually founded your very company over that. How? How did you formulate your brain to... That doesn't make sense. That makes absolutely no sense. Intimidation, saying that women are intimidated, that's why they don't come forward. There was a recent study, a recent announcement that said 40% of all of the emergency assault cases are by women. 40%. Wait, women and children. 40%. Of course, they're not telling you who's responsible for the children, but they all gather them together. 40%. What does that leave? That leaves 60% are men. 60% are men. Again, the 40% women and children is not saying who's responsible for that 40%. And then, for that 60%, they're not saying who's responsible for that. It could be 100% women. We don't know. 60% are men. Do you see how this whole we're going to believe Twitter testimony? You're going to base... I hope the guy sues whomever. I hope he sues everybody involved, including the HR department. I hope he causes that company to have to be sold and give him all of the millions that they got from the sale. I hope he sues the snot out of everybody. And I don't believe that was a good HR move. This video is about HR. I don't believe that was a good HR move. I wouldn't tolerate it in my company. I would sue the HR department myself and sue everybody individually in the HR. You went over and above your duty because you have a very defined duty. We have a set of rules. You went outside of those rules, you're no longer protected by the corporate structure. You did something personal. Not a judge in the land would disagree with me. Once you step outside of the corporate structure and you're doing something personal, then you are personally liable. I'm telling you, you people, y'all need to listen. Y'all would not like me as a judge. I would say, you have the responsibility. I'd be like, and then sue those girls too. Sue them too. You can't make allegations. Here's something funny about defamation. Not making it to the proper authorities is defamation. Man, that's why Bill Cosby is suing all of those women. That's what all of this is about. Because Cosby sued the women. And then the women came back and tried to sue Cosby based on defamation. And the judges are throwing out their counterclaim. But nobody in the news is going to tell you that. Because they don't want you to know that the women are in the wrong. They don't have a leg to stand out on the original facts. Cosby is suing them for defamation. Has he not been defamed? He's been defamed. If If John the Baptist could rise up from the grave and preach it, he's been defamed. Has he not? Where is his reputation right about now? Thank you for watching. Like the video. I need all of you, every single person to like, just thumbs up the video. Do me that favor, okay? I'll come to your defense too, if it so merits, right? I'll make a video about you too, all right? And give you my advice at the end. Thank you for watching the Shakaama Live Show.